What up? What up? What up, everybody? Live Reality Games Podcast. I am your host, Daniel Ball, and tonight we are back at it. We got Survivor Angelica, episode 12, Nowhere to Hide. We're recapping the madness that was medieval, all the things that you missed or that you saw, and you want more information on how it all went down. It's kind of bittersweet. It's the penultimate episode of the season. It's been what a season. I mean, we've broke down every episode. We've had the highs, we had the lows, we had the funny, we've had the sad, we've had the not so funny, we've had the pissed off, we've had everything in between. But tonight we have two legends, one of which is still in the game, won some immunity, and he is back to talk about it. Joel, what up? What up?
What's up? Two immunities. Oh man, I feel like you, Dan. Two immunities.
I mean, and that's what you got to watch out for. I don't know how things are going to play out for you, but like it wasn't so good for me.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do it back to back.
Back to back. That's the problem.
I was on the bench for a little bit, and then when the pedal hit the metal, I was like, all right, I got to win this immunity because my butt is on the line. So.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. I'm interested on your perspective on going into that challenge, but it is a bittersweet episode nonetheless, because we have the puzzle slayer, the puzzle goddess, the puzzle queen, the one who has no puzzle that she can't dominate. Paige, what is up?
Let's go!
Bubbly. Cheers, everybody. Cheers.
They got me now.
They got you. It's one of those things where it's hard. Like in the moment, you can be mad or upset, and you have just a different array of emotions. But I think at this point, everyone is come to grips with where they're at in the game and how it finished. But for you, Paige, just knowing how big of a threat, like you may not have known it up front, but watching the episodes week after week after week, it's like Paige is the threat. Paige is the best at puzzles. Paige is this. Paige is good. And then on top of that, you're actually like dominating certain things. And I'll ask you, what is the feeling like now after you've seen it and you've had some time to sit on it, and or do you still wonder if there anything I could have done differently, or are you just kind of you've come to grips with what happened and you're good with it?
I mean, it's an interesting spot to be in. That was my vote out happening when it didn't take me by surprise, like in the moment necessarily. Like it was something I had felt coming for like a couple of rounds. I think if you know what to listen for, you can feel the wind has changed and the wind is not blowing your way. And so I knew I want to say about 3 rounds that I was like, that it was looking dicey. So when it happened, we're at final 5. I knew there was nothing else advantage-wise that could happen. I'd felt it coming for a certain amount of time. I knew I probably needed to win out at that point. And if not, like, if I didn't win it, I needed like a particular person to win it. I think Joelle winning it would have been great if things had been different. Had Joelle not won it, I think that maybe would have been my one option to be like, he's the only one left from the other tribe. I think that was maybe my only stick to throw. And at that point I was like, well, like I remember during that challenge, because like in the episode, what we see of the challenge is like a couple of minutes. That challenge was probably like, Joelle, what would you say? Like, it wasn't a short challenge.
No. I would say like, cause I definitely I got up to like 3 or 4, and then I knocked my blocks over at the end. And so I had to restart. Yeah. So I feel like it was like, I want to say 20, 25 minutes.
I want to say we were in that zone.
Like, it was some time. I mean, having to travel, like it wasn't like they were super close to each other, and like having to travel from one end of the field to the other. And nobody has any idea how the size of this field. Yeah. It's massive.
This field is massive. So like the first thing I run to is that little dipsy duty with the ball, and then I ran over to the station with the knots. That was the second one I really. Sorry.
What was the thought process when that starts? What is the thought process on where you're going to go first?
I it was pretty straightforward. They laid out how many people at each station. And because I knew this is kind of a make or break for me, I was like, I need to go to the one person station, because if I can get that done, then it doesn't, if I can get everything else done, let's live in the world that for some reason I'm suddenly good at balancing things, which is something I've never been good at. Let's live in that alternate reality where I am good at that. And I blast through everything else and say I come to that one person station last. Maybe other people are thinking about, let's block Paige off and let's get in line, because only one person can be at that at a time. Right. So my thinking was get that one done ASAP, beat everyone in a foot race, get that done. Every other station has at least 3 other spots.
Yeah.
So then it would just, in my head, I was like, shoot, that's probably the best way forward to guarantee at least a smoother path to be able to get all the other tasks done. Because the other element was when they showed us the last thing with that little skewer and putting the things around. Joelle, how tall are you?
I'm 6'2", and my arms are like
so
really long. So
let's live in this world of reality where I am a foot shorter than Joelle, and I'm looking at that thing and I'm going, I'm going to need at least, like compared to everyone on this field, I'm going to need more time. The learning curve for me, if I get to this phase of the challenge, is going to be different. The learning curve is also going to be me like at this angle, trying to like balance the things through. So I was like, I need to get fast.
You needed to stack those cups to stand on. That's what you needed.
Yeah, I needed to like steal other parts of the challenge to like get myself to the same. Yeah, so like it was get that solo one done first. I was like, the knot tying will be so fast. I'll whip that out, and then I'll be able to try and change reality and balance some balls, which as we saw, didn't go my way, but it went a really long time. Yeah. When I got to the knot tying, the untying the knot on the brick, there wasn't a camera around, but that was the moment as I was untying it that I was like, come on, Paige, you got to do this. If you don't get this challenge, you're gone, you're done. And so when Joelle simply beasted that challenge, like Joelle, I cannot stress enough, simply lapped us. Just swept the floor with everyone else who was there. That got said. I heard like Joelle wins immunity, and I was like, and Paige is out of the game. Like,
oh no!
Yeah,
like before that challenge started, like Katie came up to me and was like, "Listen, you have to win. If Paige wins, you're going home." And I'm like, "Oh, we're just calling the shots here now, right?" But like also like. He also devised a plan where like we saw that like that one the one station could only have one person at a time. And so she's like, let's all run and go to that station first so that Paige doesn't get it first. And so in my head, I'm already thinking about like how to game this. And I'm like, I'm not going to run and simply wait for that station because other people are going to do it. I'm going to go straight for a different station. And by the time I'm done, then that one is going to be open. You know, it didn't look as hard or tricky. So I was like, that's not my concern. And then I knew that the knot one, I'm like, okay, you can brute force that. So I'm like, let me get like all of my nerves out on the balancing first, and then I'll do everything else. And so that's what I did. I just went straight to the balancing. There was another balance one. I've done that challenge before where you have to balance the ball and like get it in the little grooves. But before, when I've done it with one hand. And so I asked, I was like, wait, can we use two hands? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, great. And I don't know if anybody else knew that. And so I was able to use two hands and actually like finagle it in the groove. Yeah, because there was nothing in the rules that said you couldn't use more than one hand.
When you have to find spots for the balls, are you thinking like placement of the balls, like I want to put the ball in this spot first and this, or are you just wherever it happens to be close to, that's where you're trying to get?
I'm always thinking about placement. Like the one that's furthest away, I want to do that one first because you have less of a chance to knock it out, right? So, but that's not how it happened for me. Like I got the one on the left first, of course I did. And so I just had to like use a little bit more finesse to get the other two. But I think using the two hands really helped.
All right.
That's a great strategy. My strategy was pray to the survivor gods, and if a ball landed anywhere, awesome. Then that's not up to me.
Money. Yeah.
That's great.
Money. Prior to this challenge starting, you see Katie giving a confessional, and she opens and basically says Paige is next. And then it's Joelle. And it got me thinking, Paige, you've already said like you pretty much knew like you had to win because you were next. Joelle, was their conversation about you even being brought up, or you knew that you were probably going to be okay for this round because they really wanted Paige? Or
so I think at this point, like because I sold my soul to Santi and Tara, that like I was good with them. I was not as like in with Katie. So I knew that like, okay, if Paige wins, then I'm definitely screwed because I don't know if Santi and Tara are going to let go of Katie at that point, right? If somebody else wins and me and Paige are both on the table, I know Paige has a good relationship with Katie and maybe like they can work something there to pull. Because we were getting close to like the end in the final 3, it only takes 3 in that round to try to like run the table, right? And I didn't want any other like, maybe if like Santi's like, I can't be with Tara anymore, so let me grab Paige and Katie and then we'll get the other 2 out, right? I didn't want any of those possibilities. So I knew that I had to win. And I guess we'll get into the strategy talk after I won about like what I was thinking of. But I knew like I had to win. And with the Jess vote that just happened, that night before we went to sleep, it's funny, that night before we went to sleep, the vote was me. I was going home, 100%. And I'm panicking, and like Santi comes up to me, he's like, there's nothing I can do. Even though he has an idol in his pocket at the time, he didn't think about using it. He's just like, there's nothing I can do. I have immunity. I tried, but you're next. And so I'm like, just exasperated because I had worked so hard to get to this point. And I'm just like, I can't just go out like this. And so that night, I remember that Natasha played her idol, the tribe idol. And we hadn't really had time, like camp life, because it was just challenge, tribal. So I was like, maybe they re-hit it. I don't know if they did or not. I'm like, maybe they re-hit it out here. So after everybody like laid down and the lights went off, I got up, I looked around for like 5 minutes. And then I just went to the bathroom because I had to anxiety poop. And I was gone for like 25 minutes, but I was gone long enough for like Katie to think that I had an idol.
I mean, let's also preface that 25 minutes that Joelle was gone was the quietest 25 minutes of that.
All Joelle
relief.
All Joelle had to say was, hey, I feel really bad. I'm going to step out and let y'all get to sleep first.
He left. And
I'm going to be courteous here.
I was like, yeah, maybe he's finding an idol, but this is the 25 minutes nap time that I get this entire night. We all knew he was gone. Like,
so sorry. Yeah, and Jeff had brought breathe right strips from the market. And so like I was like, oh yeah, they work. They don't work. I take them off in my sleep. So it's funny because I come back to the cabin and I'm like fumbling around with something, and Katie like hears it, so she thinks I have the idol. But I'm actually trying to get a breathe right strip in the dark. So I mean, it did fuel a little bit of paranoia, but I knew that I was the vote at some point, and then something switched in the morning, and Santi like decided to play his idol, and so that gave me like kind of like a second wind. Like, okay, I can't be playing around. I need to. There's no more like laying back and let everybody do stuff because there's not enough targets in the game yet left. So I was like, I need to win, and yeah.
Now, Paige, were you and Joelle ever having conversation about any of this, or?
We were having conversations.
Mm-hmm.
There just wasn't like a lot of opportunity. It felt like for them to go much farther, but we were like, I always felt like I was trying to keep things open with you, and I always appreciated that it felt like we were genuinely listening to each other and like weighing options. And I think that goes all the way back to when we were on that swap tribe together. Like I always felt like I had a great vibe with you and a great connection. And I think it was around this place in the game where I was like, I feel like we're like Romeo and Juliet in this game. We've just been like we're on opposite sides and we've wanted to work, but it doesn't quite. The conversations were always open.
Joelle,
I think that's
Katie. You set out and did exactly what you needed to do. She
breathe right idle.
She was under the impression that you had something.
The next morning, also, we have slept maybe 20 minutes. Like, it's like Joelle gets up to go look for an idol. We all know he's gone because we can finally sleep. And then, like, in the morning, as we're all, like, dragging ourselves out of the cabin, having barely slept, there's a breathe right strip attached to Joelle's shirt. And we're like, girl, you put it on wrong. That's why it's not working. Put on your damn shirt.
Wait, also before I went to look for the idol, right? So Tara also snores, but it's not as bad.
Yes.
It's like white noise. So I remember we cut the lights.
And
in 5 minutes, Tara started snoring. And I'm like, oh no, they're going to think that's me. It's about to get a lot worse. And so in the morning, I woke up and then I heard Santi like, oh, Jess, that was a good idea. Thank you. And I was like, well, what happened? And then he said that Jess ripped up her tampons and they used them as ear.
I was not part of that crew, but I was aware it was happening. But like at that point, I was pretending to sleep because I was like, maybe if I pretend, I'll eventually fall asleep. And it was like, I can't articulate both of the snoring happening in like this. We would never confuse the snores. Don't worry. True. Like Tara and Joelle snore, like one would like dip and then the other would rise. It was like this perfect orchestra. You could never block it out. And I remember it was probably like 4:35 in the morning. And Jess just like screamed into the cabin. She goes, Joelle, wake up. Like it was absolutely wild. So we also have to remember going into this last day of the game is painted with this absolute delirium of like I think I woke up and like dragged out. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna win out and I'm gonna play as safety without power. That's my plan. Like,
I think that's why I did so good in the challenge because I got a full 8 hours of sleep.
You were
bet
fine.
you did. That see,
well rested.
So Joelle, you go in and you dominate the immunity challenge. It's multiple stations and it's clear like your strategy and yeah, cheers to that. You crushed it. You know, that looked like a lot of fun. But once it's over, are you breathing a sigh of relief or are you going, oh shit, now we have to vote someone out and now I've still got to think about like the end game? Because the downside to you eliminating a player is now the field is just that much smaller. And so it's like, well, now instead of 1 in 5, I'm 1 in 4. And now it's like, well, how do I get myself to the final 3? You know, Paige, I kind of want to shift gears a little bit and focus a little bit on you. This season has been a season of like, we're going to confront the person, and confront's probably like too aggressive of a word. We're going to sit down with the person and let them know that they're the vote. And that's happened multiple times throughout the season. I personally didn't get the luxury of having that. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. But, you know, when Santi, you know, when they come to you and they're like, you know, we have to, it has to be you. Like, you're just too good. Like, are you buying that? Are you okay with that? Do you feel good about that? Or
those are 3
I know
questions. Yeah. So to quickly illustrate the few minutes before that happened, we arrived back at camp post that didn't want no storms brewing.
No more.
Yeah, Dan, it would have broken the game in half had you known.
Broken it.
So we arrived back at camp. Joelle's quickly jumps into a confessional, and I think it was Santi. Yeah, I think it was Santi I turned to first, and also like Joelle had been in on the plan a couple votes previous that was supposed to be me before shit hit the fan and Hannah did end up going. It was supposed to be me, and I know it was supposed to. And we created enough chaos that it wasn't. But like Joelle was in on that vote, so like Joelle knew that this face was probably around. So we get back, and I know probably what's going to happen. You can feel it. It's been happening for a bit. And I turn to Santi and I go, "Hey, like I think I said something along the lines of like, feel like it's me." Like, just because there's certain points where like I want to just address it and be like, what's my workability here? Especially with something like that, where it's like, these are all people who I've worked with the entire game with. With Joelle in a confessional, the remaining 3 are people I've been with the entire time. So I feel like I know enough of their tells and I know enough about their games. So I turn to him like, what's happening here? Like, I feel like it's me. Essentially, my underlying text is, convince me why it's not. Yeah. And Santi's like, I can't remember exactly I can't remember if he said outright, like, no, it's not you, or let me go see what I can find out. But essentially he goes away and I'm like, that doesn't feel good. He grabs Katie and they go away. And then I grab Tara and I'm like, hey, so like, doesn't feel great. These 2 just went off. I feel like it's probably going my direction. What do you think? And Tara goes, no, it's not you. And I'm like, well, still doesn't feel like it's not me.
Well, but
like, that doesn't, because here's the other thing. At this point, no one has given me a different name. No one for a couple rounds now. Like, we saw that at the reward the night before, Santi and Tara had offered me this final 3. And I was like, okay, great, sure. I'll take whatever. I'm a hungry dog. I'll take anything. I'll eat whatever. At this point, no one had really clued me into like, hey, past this vote, this is what we should do. So I was like, well, this is a bad sign for me. Yeah. So I'm having this conversation with Tara. I know what happens. Enter Santi and Katie, stage left into the convo. And Santi's like, I gotta be honest, it's gonna be you. And I was like, well, so
thanks. Thank you.
Yeah. I did ask to be told, because I was like, well, like, tell me what's happening here, because I feel like it's me. Mm-hmm. And this might determine how I play the next couple minutes, or like what happens, or how I go to the jury. I want to see how people who have been with me the entire game, how they treat me on the way out. And then we see Tara go like, I'm so sorry. I didn't like, I was just playing. I didn't know if we were kind of like, essentially like, I didn't know if we were telling you or not. And I was like, well, that doesn't. And then it kind of keeps going. I didn't have problems with being told in that moment, because I knew it was happening. And so I would rather someone be like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Now change my mind. Versus being like, we're going to lie, with me also knowing. Right. And then as it kept going, like my 3 kind of like closest allies of the game being like, we just can't take you farther. You're such a big threat. You do this, you do that. There's going to be a puzzle. You're just so great. Don't you want to win up? And I was like, please stop. This is
in my notes, I put in my notes, everyone loves Paige, and they say this vote out is all out of love. And I put a vomit emoji. I'm just like,
and that's very nice. And I do believe that was the genuine sentiment. I don't think there's a falsehood, but like, it's just a lot to take in when you're like, hey, you're still like breaking up with me. And even though you still love me and I still have great affection, I'm still hurt, and it's a little much. And so I am. One moment that I am kind of like proud that I said is there, I was kind of like, okay, can we stop? Because this was too much. And then like someone offers to hug me and I go, that's my boundary. I'd actually like to go have a moment to myself. Yeah. We'll talk after. Yeah. So like, do I agree with the whole telling people? I think it's also like, it's up to someone if they want to do that. If you want to try and do it for like personal reasons or game reasons, to be like, I want to try and send the person out into the jury feeling good. But there came a point where I was like, this actually feels really bad. And I didn't like it, and it was overwhelming. So then I went off and cried.
Do you
No.
think it being so deep in the game and not where you were as far as finishing in the game, but like 2 long, grueling days, you're just kind of depleted. And like for me, I know like little things at that point would be bigger things than what they really are, just because of how I'm drained physically and emotionally.
Oh,
After 2
100%.
days, is that kind of where you were, especially if you're saying, "Hey, I ain't hugging you. Like I'm gonna walk over here.
Like that way of just like, if
Leave
I
me
have
alone."
to cry and it's gonna be more, it's gonna be worse. Like I just don't like it.
It's like one of those things when you're on the verge of tears and somebody's like, "Are you okay?" And you're just like, "Oh," you know, you
like,
kind of
no, I'm not okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, but like, yeah, like we feel depleted. We're tired. We're hungry. We've like, I've been putting my all into like these challenges, both as an individual, but like also it goes back to those memories of like when we're a full tribe, and I'm like putting everything I have, and those memories also come back in that moment. And there's a betrayal in that, and that's feels sad. And we all go through it when we get voted out. Like we all understand that. We've played a lot of these games. There's that heartache that happens no matter what.
Yeah.
I didn't think like the betrayal word. That's an interesting word. I didn't think that I would feel that way like prior to the game, because it's the game, but like you do feel that way. Like it's I don't
Yeah.
know, it's hard to explain. Like you do have like a connection with the people that you play with, and you feel genuine like, you know, remorse for certain things, but then when you get betrayed, it's like, man, that hurts.
Ow! Like
Hurts.
there's a sting to that. And
You
like
know, Katie wants to know. She just wants to make sure. It wasn't because she smelled, right? That's not why you
that's what brought
declined
me
to
to
hug,
tears.
but she
No, it
did.
was definitely my feet.
Yeah,
So
like it's an intense game. We all sign up for all sides of it, and part of that is the heartache that comes. Most of us get voted out, so there is heartache that comes with that. I'm not someone who shies away from tears just because that's who I am. So if the tears are going to happen, I'm not going to like shove them in a little box. But in this moment, because of how intense it was and how close I was with everyone who was still in the game, I was like, I need my own little moment. I'm going to go off to the side and do that. A little behind the scenes. Who was it? It was Tor was behind the camera, and I could. Here's the other thing: I could feel him coming closer with the camera as I was like having my little like cry, and I was like, "All right, Paige, this is gonna look really good on the episode." Like as I'm like, just keep it going. He turns off the camera. He's like, "I'm gonna cry now." And we had like a little hug. It was very sweet. So it was very nice.
man,
And
hey,
then like there was other
shout out to production and
Oh
crew.
yes, 100%.
always shout out to production, an incredible team there.
That is a moment that it's just a small moment of what makes the game so special, and it really had nothing to do with gameplay. It was human nature, and when people have it in them to be good people regardless of the circumstances, like that makes me feel good, and that means that I signed up to play the right game, you know.
100%.
So shout out to production. That's what's up right there.
Angelica team.
Yeah.
Well, how was the
and then
walk
I-
to tribal? Was the walk long and like, or were you just like, all right, let's get this over with?
I mean, what we don't see in the episode is kind of the moment after they've told me, and then the walk to tribal, and like things were attempted. I certainly don't want the perception. I don't want the perception to be that like I went gladly to my death in this game. I skipped there with no attempt. I did try. You know, I did ask people like, what do you have an idea of what you're doing? Do you know what your next path is without me here? Joelle and I had a good talk. I have no idea if I don't know if you actually tried to go.
I've tried. I can explain like what happened, and I didn't even realize all of this was happening while I was doing my confessional. I thought, okay, like, the game's not happening, you know, when I come back. But when I came back, you were at the picnic table, just like distraught, and I'm like, wait, what happened? And you're like, oh, it's me. I know it's me. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah, like,
you're not out of it yet.
Right after, like, gave you a big hug, and I was like, they're taking me out.
Meanwhile, Katie's in the background watching you hug Joelle, and she's like, "What is going on here?
Right. What about my hug?" She's like, "Where's my hug at?" So having immunity, like, I know that, like, okay, this might be like my last round having immunity. How can I use this to my advantage, right? And I was thinking like 3 steps ahead, and Paige going that round is actually not good for me because I become the next target. And even though I didn't have agency in the game, there was like this perception that I had a story. And, you know, people love an underdog. And it didn't help that, like, when I won that challenge, the jury's like all smiling. And I'm like, guys, stop, please. I'm playing a game here. So I wanted Paige at least to Final Four. And I think like this is where like the meta of the game comes in, right? Because last season, I believe they went into like, they did fire making, but it was like a puzzle. And so people were scared that like they wouldn't be able to get rid of Paige because she crushed that fire puzzle, right? So she would be able to do whatever puzzle they throw at her. And so I was like, okay, let me think about how I can do this, right? I'm like, the only feasible way is to get Katie to flip, because Santi and Tara were like attached at the hip. And at that point, they had both promised me Final 3. And so I knew that like I would not be able to get one to turn on the other without both of them knowing. And I didn't want to screw my potential chances of getting the Final 3 if one of them won, right? So I'm like, okay, how can I do this, keep Paige and keep like them from finding out? So I go to Katie and I'm like, hey, what you thinking? Immediately she shuts it down. She's like, it's Paige, isn't it? And I knew that like if I gave her a little bite, like, oh, what do you think about Tara? It was immediately going to go to Tara. They were going to lock in. I was gone. So unfortunately, it was hard because like, you know, Katie didn't want to flip, and there was nothing else I could have done without giving up my position in the game to save you. And so I was just like, oh, I guess that's it. But like, I would have loved to have you in Final Four.
Thank you. Would have loved to be there. Also, like, I did also recognize that for a lot of people, this was the right move. So I was also like, I understand why I'm being ushered to the door. I just tried really hard to invite a new path. And it certainly didn't work.
It's so hard in that spot. I think that like
it's
also
puzzlers.
Yeah.
People are big scared of puzzlers. And if you're a puzzler out there, I want you to lie.
Lie on Survivor.
If you're good at other challenges, be good at those. If you're good at a puzzle, lie. Like,
this was me trying to do puzzles. So,
oh my god,
that's a little spoiler for everybody out there. Like, I don't like puzzles. I'm not a puzzler.
Yeah, I think that like the way you go out is interesting, and this is like what I love about Survivor is that like the psyche of the game itself, right? Because we all come into it with our own strategies and our own like plans and how we act and personality, but there is a code that the game kind of forms in itself as a collective, right? So if we go back to the merge vote, which is like when we're all first there, everybody piled on Natasha, right? With the exception of Ayla, who is staying loyal. Shout out to Ayla. But even me and Hannah were like flipping because we saw the signs, right? And then from there, there's not really like a duplicity vote. There's not really like a 4-3, a 5-2, a 6-3, right? People just jump on one person to save themselves to get to the next vote. And I think also like with the Hannah vote, the precedent had been set of 1 to tell the person that they're leaving, and 2 that Joelle is decoy, right? I was happy to be the decoy because I knew I wasn't going home. And so when I won that immunity challenge, I could no longer be the decoy, and the precedent was not set for the majority alliance to pitch themselves as the decoy. And so unfortunately, like, I feel like it was just a combination of those things of like telling the person they're going home, because I feel like Thane felt regret in taking your coins and using their advantages for themselves. And so they're like, oh, if we tell you, maybe you'll feel better being on the jury, right? And also, I think that me being the decoy, had I not had immunity, if it was like Santi or Tara or Katie, they definitely would have pitched, oh, it's Joelle. And you would have been like, sure. But that was just like the code of the game. And I find that like really interesting, because if there's a different combination of people at the merge, maybe things change. But
100%.
Well,
I mean, like,
in this case, if there's a different person that wins immunity, like the whole dynamic could change.
yeah,
absolutely.
And
1000%.
that's the crazy part. That's why in 2026 we want to run it back, baby.
Run it back.
Let's go,
Run it back,
Jason.
Stephen Mayhem.
And keep
Jason,
your
make
coins
it
to
happen.
yourselves, guys. What were you thinking? What
Look,
were you thinking?
We weren't.
Can I tell you,
We
when
were
I
just
walked
so
into the
excited.
marketplace the very first time, holding all of those coins and like
Yeah.
walking into the marketplace, because I was the first person from Thane to walk in,
Yes,
and like
I
map
remember
out
that.
what was there, and I'm holding like 50 fucking coins, 5 of them are mine. And I walked in and I looked around and I was like, oh, if I buy anything here, I'm so fucked. Simply so fucked.
Right.
And then like I think back to that, I'm like, should I have just bought the Super Idol and been like, look,
Yeah.
guys, I bought it
It's
for
for the
us.
tribe. It's for
But
us.
I actually think it would have screwed me so much quicker. Because
Yeah.
I think I would
You
have
would
been
have.
clear.
What I can say is that you probably would have had to have burned it. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Like, you would have had, like, I just don't foresee a scenario based on what everyone has said about you and your strengths, and where we don't go, all right, we've got to make this right. Like, we got to get this thing out. Like, it has nothing to do with Paige. It's the fact that we know that we can get this out of the game and she can stay, and that's fine, but we just need this out of the game. But yeah, I mean,
We'll never know.
I don't remember exactly how many shillings I gave people over the course of my game.
Oh my God.
But I would have to say, like, I think that I was the leader in the clubhouse with giving shillings to people.
Well, I remember that first marketplace. Like, everyone had given in their shillings before I went to the first time, and you pulled me aside. You're like, "Hey, I have extras," and you like gave me 20 extras, and I was like, okay, fantastic. I'm a rich girl." And then I didn't buy shit at all. For a little bit.
Hey, Tara, what's up?
Hey.
Hi.
Hi,
Tara.
Wait, Katie had a question.
Oh, Katie, the question? I don't know where you're seeing the question.
Oh yeah, I want to.
I remembered that I wanted to note before we get to tribal.
Okay, so this is a big question, and and you could talk as much. Just be careful, because I don't want to spoil anything from the episode, and sometimes what the vote out is thinking in terms of gameplay might give something away. So just be careful. She wants to know why you didn't turn it on her with Santi and Tara.
I think at that point I saw them. I saw Tara and Santi as a duo, but I saw Katie as their third. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like I also would be ruining my game with trying to play too hard, too fast, right? The vote was already Paige, right? And so in my head, the biggest threats are Santi and Tara. They haven't had any votes casted against them. They had like the biggest advantages in the game. And so I think at that point, I'm like, okay, it's either Paige goes or we get rid of the two-headed dragon. But I saw Katie as like the knight in shining armor, like to the side, right? I didn't really think to do that at that point. I think that like once like I got shut down by Katie, I was like, well, that's it, But I think that thinking back, I think that like I don't know. I was also tired. We're all tired. So like, yeah.
Really tired.
Oh my God, yes. But yeah, I thought that was my only way to get there, was to get Katie to flip. Yeah. But she shut it. She was like, nope.
Not up in here. Not
Nope.
up in here.
And based on the conversations I had before, Joelle tried so hard to pound some pavement and get a vote going the other way. The conversations that I had kind of had about like, do you have an idea of where you're going forward? I had gotten so like, no, not like in a bad way, but just kind of like, yeah, we have there's an idea of what we want to do. And I just felt like I wasn't the person who could make a flip happen. Like I didn't feel like if I came forward and I'm like, I'm not a big threat, there's probably not a puzzle next. Like that doesn't sound great coming out of my mouth to be like, you shouldn't be scared of me. Like that's not, I think it's important who's making the pitch. And if it's just me like knocking on people's doors going, hello, that's not where the vote flips.
Yeah.
Based on the vote I was getting.
If we can rewind back to the Hannah vote just for a bit.
Yeah.
Like the reason, and I think I told you this too, the reason I wrote your name down was because I thought everybody was on board to vote you out. Because I was like, going into it, the plan was keep Paige like comfortable so she doesn't play her Safety Without Power, and then we vote her out. And then when you didn't play it, I saw like there was like a little bit of commotion between Tara and Katie, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm like, that's already signaled to me like she's guaranteed final 5. Like, you know, Hannah doesn't really have many connections outside of me. Guaranteed, like, just do it. And that's why in the confession, I was like, girl, you should have played it. I don't know why you did it.
So
and then
funny.
when I saw the votes, I was like, guys, what the hell? Like, I was just like, oh my God, are we like, is this not the plan?
Yeah. And I don't I was not privy to that. Oh no, I haven't seen the wise page here. No. Oh, Joseph!
Oh,
read it.
No.
Oh, read it to Joseph. I'm still out there.
Joseph, she's still in.
Hi, Joseph. Love you. Joseph. Sorry, that just made my day. Yeah, to rewind quickly to that round, because like that was right before that happened. The Dan vote where I won immunity and was able to be like, I think Dan should go. And everyone was like, yes, Dan should go. I was like, oh, okay. So you're saying I'm fucked pretty much. That's what I hope it's okay that I'm swearing.
No, you're fine.
For it. Yeah, at that point I was like, oh great. We're taking out challenge threats who are likable at the end. Awesome. I'm dead soon. But at that point, I also, and like Dan, I've told you this, at that point, I was like, if the plan is win out, I unfortunately do need Dan to go. So I was fine with that happening. I was heartbroken about it because like I loved working with you. And then we get to the next round. I don't get immunity. And I'm like, okay, so how do we hide here? And pretty quickly, Santi comes to me and Santi, Katie, and I are having a convo. I think it was the 3 of us. I know Santi was there because Santi's like, well, I'm going to play my Safety Without Power this round. So like, I'll be good. We have the votes. And I was like, oh yeah, I think I might play it. And the vibe shift that happened in that convo was so immediate and so fast of like, I think I might play it. And they're like, oh, you think you might play it? Interesting. And like the vibe just shifted really quick. Suddenly people broke off. Yeah, I was like, okay. So the temperature check is hot. The temperature check is the water is boiling and I am in it. So then it was a lot of like, for me, it was a lot of like going around and keeping that kind of like, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Having like a sincere conversation with Katie being like, if you want me to stay, I will stay here. But like, maybe I should like, just trying to keep chaos going because I was like, well, if there's chaos in numbers and this gets messy, that's where I hide. And then somehow, once again, not privy to this convo fully, it kind of turns into like, okay, we're going to tell Hannah. Like, we're going to tell Hannah that Hannah's going. We tell Hannah it's such a mess because of how it goes out. I tell Katie that Hannah's told me that I'm the vote. So then I see this conversation of like Hannah, Katie, and Santi with the two of, I think Santi was like talking to Hannah being like, you're blowing up Katie's spot. And I'm kind of like a couple people away going, huh, I think this is just enough that I survived this, but I'm not sure. So like I was in tribal and like, to your point, Joel, of like, should I have played it or not? I was sitting there holding the papers in my hands.
I remember.
Like I was like holding them and like I'd had this like really convoluted plan to like maybe play one of them as a fake knowledge is power and try and steal Tara's idol. Which would have been, I would have need to have been so calm for that to even almost work. And I was not calm. So I'm like looking at the papers and I'm like, okay, we've just had this pretty public moment in tribal where Hannah's said like, Hannah's claimed she's going home, that we've told her about it. And like, and I felt so sick about like, how would it was just all like really yucky. And I was like, I think enough has happened that I should be fine. I don't like how it's happened, but I think I'm okay. And then I remember right after the vote, Joelle, you pulled me, you were like, I just hope you understand, like I could never have voted for Hannah. And I was like, yeah, like 50% is a pass.
Okay,
sure.
All right. I gotta work on it.
And I was like, yeah, all right.
Because when I saw the other votes, I was like, guys, like, are we not trying to plus advantages? Also, that round, like,
it was chaos, and it was so dark. And people were. It was just such a mess. It was such a mess, and we could hear like Dan. We could hear you all in jury behind us being like, "Wow, I can't believe they did that." And I was like, "There's no way. There's no way this turns around. This is bad. I don't like it. It's not good."
It was a hard round because I actually was excited to get to this point because I'm like, okay, final 7. This is where 4 people make a move and ride it to the end, right? So I'm like, I just need 4, but there were no targets because Santi had his idol and safety without power. Tara had the super idol. Jess won immunity. Paige had safety without power. And so it left me, Hannah, and Katie as targets, right? So the only way to make a move was to make a move on Katie, right? Because I needed Hannah in the game, right? Because if Hannah goes, then like I'm in the same predicament at final 5 where I need 3 people to like jump with me. So I'm like, okay, maybe if I grab Hannah, Paige, and Jess, I was like, okay, that's a 4. But when I went like, because Hannah had a good relationship with Jess, so I was like, oh, what if we asked her to split with us? If we get Paige to stay, we have 4 votes, and then we can vote out Katie. But just shut it down. She's like, no, I love Katie too much. I would never write her name down. And I'm just like, oh my God. I can't
at that point, too, like at that point as well, like I knew how close Katie and Jess were because I'd slept beside them and I knew how close and how far they were talked and I knew how tight that bond was. But I also felt that tight with Katie. Like Katie was my number 1 girl. Like I knew I was in hot water. I thought Santi was orchestrating it. So when it gets back to me that I was like, oh, Katie started this. That's when I was like, oh, that's cool. And that's my one in this game. So I was like, oh God. So what's the option? Play nice? Like
it was a hard round. And I think that like that conversation that they had with Hannah was part of like the acting plan. But the thing about acting is that you have to tell people that they're part of the role. You can't just come to people and be like, hey, listen, we're doing this. Because she actually felt it and like the emotion came out. And, you know, Hannah is a very experienced player and, you know, she doesn't give up. So she wasn't just going to go and be like, oh, it's me. She was like, okay, I have this information that they're going to blindside Paige. Let me use this to do something. But unfortunately, it wasn't the plan. So it was just like, yeah, it was a mess. And then when Paige didn't play the thing, you know, we couldn't talk after that because Jason said no talking. But I see like, so I'm like, okay, cool. Like that's signal to me to bite down Paige. Yeah. And then no one does it. And I'm like, okay, so now she has a safety without power. Santi still has the idol. Tara has the super idol. Jess won't vote for Katie. So like, what am I gonna do next? Like, it was
better win immunity.
Right, exactly.
You know what's funny though? Like, had I won in the right round, that I could have given away my safety without power, Joelle, you would have gotten it. Like,
Thank
I
you.
would have sent you out so that we could do something else.
Yes.
Because I was like, I think that's my other option.
Right.
But
yeah,
it never
it
quite worked out.
It just sucks because it's like, so the double vote, right? That takes away the final 9. So usually the odd number votes are the time to make a move, because
100%.
the even number votes, you can potentially get a tie. You don't want to do that. And so the double vote took that away. Final 7, they were like, everybody was like flashing their jewelry, like, I got this, I'm playing this, I'm playing that. And then final 5, like, everybody's like, well, Paige is going home. So it's like, the odd number votes that I could have done something, it was just so deadlocked. And I don't know, it just made me feel like so like paralyzed. I'm like, I've done so much to get to this point, so I could make a move. I laid low. I talked to the right people, and on the rounds that I could make the move, I couldn't.
You also you played a way that would allow you to get to where you're currently at, which is in the top 4. And
True.
For you to sacrifice that when you're so close, knowing that you just came off an immunity win. And so, like, in my head, if I was you, if I won immunity like you did, I would go into the next challenge going, well, I can win immunity.
Yeah.
Like I could win 2 in a row. Like, but we get to tribal, and I have some things to say about tribal, because I'm very, I don't know.
Man's got some things to say.
Yes, Born is coming.
I'm gonna lay it out. So
I also have a couple of things that I want to say on tribal.
So
And also from them. Lead us
everyone
in.
talks. All right, so this is the first thing. Everyone's like, we got to equalize the field by taking out Paige. Yet, the people who are saying let's equalize the field have advantages that make this thing unequal to begin with.
Yes.
So, like, when you tell me that, it's like, whatever. Like, I don't want to hear that garbage. Katie is pandering, saying, Paige, we were ride or dies. Like, you were 101. And I'm sure you guys were, but that's the shit that I find humorous, knowing what I know about like all the confessionals prior to these things happening, and how Paige was the vote on many occurrences and Katie was the one that was sparking a lot of those. And it's like, well, now that I actually have to do what I said I wanted to do, I don't really want to do this. Joelle says, if I can't win, then I would want it to be Paige. So
did I say that? I don't remember.
Yeah, in your vote.
Oh.
In your vote, you're like Paige. If I couldn't win, I would hope it was you. Like, and I'm like, and I hope I have your jury vote. Like, everyone's been like, I think if you listen to my game, I hope that you have my jury vote. I'm like, everyone thinks they have my jury vote. Everyone thinks I have 5 jury votes to give away.
I'm telling you.
It's like an obituary almost. Like, oh my God, Paige.
I felt like I was at my own funeral. Jeez.
The cream of the crop. The greatest comment. And I can't remember. I should have marked who said this, but everyone loves Paige, and this vote out is truly out of love.
That was Sarah. Love you.
I just none of that would hit me the way that it did if your name hadn't been constantly for the past 4 episodes been brought up as the person that they're working to like eliminate. But I mean, you should feel good knowing you survived for many rounds, and a break here or there, and you might find yourself, in the final 4.
Yeah. This is
why Tara says, if she remembers correctly, it had a matter of minutes to scramble. To flip a vote was going to be pretty impossible, which I agree. Like, when it comes to tribal and
not impossible.
I tell you who could do it.
There's a chance.
T could do it. T could do it in about 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, T could do it.
Give her 3.5 minutes, and she'll wrap this thing up.
Less.
So
I do think this is a testament to CBS Survivor that fire making does not work. Fire making is put in the game to have players like Paige get to the end. But if we know that there's a fire making, then we get rid of Paige before she gets to that spot. It just moves the needle back, right? You don't get like a Kelly Wentworth in the final four in Cambodia if there's a fire making, because they're going to get rid of her at final five. Like it's just not. It's not Survivor. Take it out, please.
I mean,
I'm begging. Also, I'm bad at fire. I may be good at puzzles, but I'm shit at fire. So
unless it's a fire puzzle.
Puzzle.
Yeah.
Unless it's a puzzle. What was it?
So Paige, obviously the votes are, unanimous except for the vote that you laid. And
yeah, let's not say unanimous.
Not unanimous.
Are we all? Will this be a unanimous vote? I'm still here. It's not a unanimous vote. It's not a unanimous vote.
Who did you vote for? I don't remember.
I voted for Katie.
Oh.
Yeah, because here's the thing. At that point, also, just to put this out there, after I've tried to make my pitches back at camp before we go to this tribal, I do say, I'm like, okay, if people want to try and pitch me to send me off to jury with an idea of your game, come talk to me. Don't just leave me out for the next 15 minutes while they set up the camera at tribal. Come talk to me. Keep playing the game. Keep doing something. And at that point, Katie did come up to me and she owned up to the fact that she had been trying to get me out for this many rounds. She laid out her game really clearly. So I also knew, and because of Hannah had told me as well,
she was trying to get your vote.
Yeah, 100%.
Pandering for a vote.
And one of the things that she said in there was I haven't received a vote in this game. And at that point, she was the only player who had not received a vote. And so because Tara and Santi had received votes.
Yeah. I got a vote from Jess.
You got
nullified, so I was but I had
over the votes. Katie had said that, and to me, my relationship with Katie was really, really special to me. It meant a lot. It really meant a ton to me. And at the same time, when I'm on jury, I don't love when people make it to the end. They're like, no one ever wrote my name down. I actually don't love that personally as a jury member, because of the way I play, I'm often going to end up copying votes. That's going to happen. Yeah. So I would love someone to be able to get to the end and be like, yeah, I did survive getting votes. I got to the end and I was a threat to win. And so for me, that was a tip of the hat of I think you're playing an amazing game. And you should have votes. This is me saying this is a vote. This is a game I really respect. This is a person who I like how they're playing the game. And also I think getting to the end and being like, no one ever voted to me. I don't always love as a jury member. I think there's something to be said for having to truly survive. And that means getting a vote. And so I was happy to, in my way, pay that respect to Katie's game. So that was why I voted Katie.
It's a good feeling. I guess it's kind of a good and a bad feeling when you get a vote and you're able to go, you know what? It wasn't so bad. I was able to survive.
Yeah. 100%.
Even though in the moment you're like, here it is. This is it. It's all over.
One of the not one of the first games I played, but one of the first ones, the first time I saw my name, I lost my mind. I was like, what do you mean there's one vote? What do you mean? And that was a mess. And I reflected on that. And then I know. Thank you, love you. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Getting a vote makes you
lost your mind when you got one vote. And
yes. So in this one where it was truly every single name is going to be mine, but it's not a unanimous vote, and I get to say something with my vote. And so that was my way of saying something. So it was kind of with the understanding and the hope that no matter whose name got written down, they would understand it wasn't yeah, fuck you, man. I'm so mad at you. I wish you were gone. It was more of like, I know I'm going. Like, no one's being subtle. No one's trying to pretend that that's not happening. So I would rather like bow out and be like, this is the person I think like you should be looking at. Because this is the person I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, it was quite the episode, and obviously, now that it is your time has come, Paige, everybody is pretty in unison with you are a tremendous player, an absolutely tremendous player. And if there's ever a game that I get a chance to play with you, I'm definitely you're gonna be an ally of mine, because like if not, I'm gonna have to get rid of you. Like it just, it just can't.
Also, like
I will rewind a few episodes ago when you go, yeah, the vote's got to be Dan. Get the hell out of here.
He's gotta be gone.
So,
Yeah, like, and also, can I quickly say something? I know we're over an hour. I'd love to just quickly say, big shout out to the jury who was like, the moment I like left, I like finished my little exit interview, and the jury received me with like so much like such a great energy and so much joy. Dan, you were part of that, and I was so grateful to like have that group of people to like walk into. And that was really meant a lot to production for like holding space for us throughout the whole weekend. I also have to give a shout out to pre-juror icon Stephen Lupo, who hung out. I had met in an org, and then he hung out like the whole weekend to just watch the rest of the game play out.
Yep.
And I remember when I walked into Tribal and we like made eye contact for half a second, and he just gave me a look, and he was like, oh God, she's going. Like he just knew the moment I walked in, he was like, she's gone. And I just thought everyone who I interacted with had such a wonderful energy, and I was so happy for that, especially like coming out and feeling a little bit raw. That was really important to me. And Dan, you were such a huge part of that.
hey,
Dan,
I do what I can. The Danzels.
The Danzels.
I was the only male in the jury at that moment.
Yeah,
So,
we got voted out all the men pre-jury.
Dan and the Danzels. It was a wonderful group to walk into. So,
well, good. We were sad that you were out, but we were happy that you got to hang out with us.
Happy to hang.
So there's your consolation, hanging out with us, baby.
Ooh. And then grabbing my vegan cookie and walking back through camp to go collect my things. A great feeling.
Yeah.
Snap vegan cookie, collecting my sleeping bag, walking back out.
Yeah.
Good time.
Joelle,
good time.
I wanted to ask before we get out of here, obviously you win immunity and you get through this tribal, and it's almost now like that immunity is it's null and void. Like you might as well throw it in the lake, because like now the game gets real.
Yeah.
Without saying too much, like what is your mindset immediately after that tribal where you go, all right, like now, like I've got to do something?
So I played enough of these games to realize like what my strength is. And it's not, I mean, I won 2 challenges. I don't know how, but it's not challenge strength, and it's not strategic prowess, because like I can big brain myself into getting voted out, right? It is always social game. Always, always, always for me. And so in my head, I'm just like, how do I cash in on the connections that I've made? How do I suss out if I'm being lied to? Like I'm like, okay, this spot of Final Four is perfect for me, because I can use like my strength to try to get me to the finals if I don't win. And so I was kind of mad that I didn't have like the golden ticket of Paige right there so she can shine bright, but I'm like, okay, we got through this tribal. I did what I needed to do. I survived Lorne, through like all of the stuff that was going on. And so I'm like, okay, I just have to politic. And that's what I'm great at. So that's what's going through my head. I also had gotten to Final Four in a game I played a year ago. And so I'm having flashbacks and I'm like, okay, what did I do wrong in that game that I don't want to mistake in this game? And for me, without giving too much away in that game, was pitching too much. Like, people want to feel comfortable with you if you're like, that's the plan, I'm good, right? When you come up and you're like, what about this? What about this? What about this? They kind of start second guessing, like, wait, are you actually with me or are you thinking about something else? So I'm like, okay, I got to keep it simple. I can't push too much, but I still have to find a way to secure myself. So that's my thinking. I'm always thinking. You got to always think in these games. So yeah.
Well, it's going to be interesting next week to see how it all unfolds, because there's a lot that we don't know. Is it going to be an actual fire making? Is it going to be a puzzle fire making? Is there even going to be fire at all? Are we going to have blow torches? Are we going to have lighters? Are we going to have matches? Or, is lightning going to strike the field and it's going to light it on fire? Like, there's so much that could happen. But on top of, like, there's still a social piece that you've got to get through and an immunity challenge. And it's all going to culminate this Friday. So I hope everybody gets a chance to tune in, because it's definitely worth the watch. Get to check out Joel, Santi, Tara, and Katie one last time to see who gets crowned the sole survivor of Survivor Angelica Medieval Mayhem. Bloomington, we bounce, Joel, anything you want to plug or promote?
Of course, I'm always plugging.
Let's go.
Survivor Bloomington is currently airing its 7th season right now. Yours truly is on it. Go watch that. Shout out to Casey and all my Indiana peeps. They're also casting for season 8, and you will know the cast 3 months in advance. So if you watch the season, you're like, that's not fair that Joel and Santi knew each other. Well, now you can do all the research you want before you get on the show. So I implore you to apply. It's a great game. It's 5 days, 4 nights, 4 days, 5 nights. I don't know. Go on the website. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And also stay tuned next Friday or this Friday. This Friday, right? Yeah. What's today? Tuesday? Wednesday? I don't know where I'm at. This Friday. Is it this Friday or is it next Friday?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
The finale of Angelica.
There it is. Paige. Yeah, Paige, what you got?
I've got no games coming up. I'm taking the summer off to go do my normal job. My normal job of being an actor. So if you're in Vancouver, come see Bard on the Beach Shakespeare Festival. That's where I'll be hanging out for the next. That's where I'll be hanging out. So, let's see. Next summer, this is my early pitch. Bloomington, I really want to play your game. Next summer, please cast me. 2026. I will
put in a referral. I'm putting a referral in.
Hello, Bloomington. It's one of my games. I want to play that game. When we run it back,
I will come back for a production just to watch you play.
Yay! Let's see what else. Maroon season 3, a game out here in Vancouver, is currently casting. If you are interested, there is still a casting link open. I think that's all I might have to plug at the moment. Watch the finale, which might be out tomorrow, might be out a different day. Finale of this game, our game, Mayhem. Yep. It's Thursday today.
Yeah, check it out. It'll be live. It'll be lit for sure.
It'll be live, it'll be lit. Dan and the Danzels are gonna eat it up on jury. I've got a very silly little outfit to wear. I've got my questions prepped. It's Dan and I sitting beside each other the entire final tribal, going, huh.
No, it's a lot of. No, for me, let me just pull it up. I figured it's easier just to do it this way. For me, here's what we got. Survivor South Brooklyn, Idle Warfare. Yes. They're applying now. Check that out.
Very shout out to George. I'll probably be out there on production. Don't worry, I won't be playing, so you ain't got to worry about me. But I will be watching.
I've heard so much about this game. I've wanted to play this for a while. It's just so hard to get out to the East Coast. But I've heard great things about this one.
Well, if you get cast, I have a spare room. So just saying.
Noted. Oh, what's this?
Trader
Traderverse?
Chicago.
Oh.
Trader Chicago.
Oh, fun.
Deadline.
Women especially encouraged to apply. Women especially encouraged to apply to Traders Chicago. You heard it here.
Yep.
What do you got
Deadline
next?
March 31st. Survivor Indiana. 5 days left.
Where is
Ooh.
Indiana? For a
Where?
Canadian who does not know where Indiana is, where is Indiana?
In the Midwest.
Yep.
Does that help?
Fantastic.
Martinsville, Indiana.
I'm on the west, so if they're west, that also works. And then we've got
Oh, is that Survivor Burn?
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard about Survivor Burn. It's like a 3-day like camping festival. So like they've got live bands, music, food, and you're also playing Survivor in the background. And there's an audience. It's like definitely check them out. It's like a huge production. Like
wait,
it's one of the games I want to play. Yeah.
So
100%.
Put it out early. You could just enjoy the freaking festival.
A lot of things.
That.
Yeah.
A lot of things out there to look forward to. Yeah.
We should have live reviewing of what's casting.
Here we go. This is it. This is what we're gonna do. Season 2026 Survivor Angelica. We run it back, and then we have a festival.
Oh,
please.
Yes. There you go.
Please.
Go ahead, y'all get y'all's PTO and vacation time set. Don't be using it. Save it up and go ahead and get the week. You know it's probably going to be in the summer, so y'all get ready for that. But this has been a blast. It stinks that we got one more of these.
I know. I want to do this like every week.
I know.
Well, so fun. I love it.
I mean, like when All Stars comes out for Angelica, like who cares about the cast on there? Why don't we just recap?
Let's go.
Gosh, please. Wait, I would love that.
I mean,
they're gonna want to come on. So
they might be tired of me. They might be like, we're done with this dude. Get somebody else. But Joel, Paige, appreciate y'all joining us. Obviously, Joel, hopefully you're back next time.
I will be back next week,
and we'll get to see what magnitude that you get to talk to us about your game. And Paige, you're still the puzzle queen in my book. That's right, baby.
Yes.
For myself, Joel, and Paige, this has been the Survivor Angelica Medieval Mayhem episode 12 recap. Head over to Live Reality Games on Facebook, Live Reality Games Casting on Instagram. Find a game that's right for you. Go apply. And I promise you, it'll be the best decision you ever made. In the meantime, be good. If you can't be good, at least be safe. We're out of here. See y'all. Peace.